I hope कुछ थोड़ा सा I guess whatever we had discussed yesterday, we were able to grasp like not even, if not completely, but maximum amount of it, I guess.
Yeah, ma'am.
Thank you. That is so nice of you, Manorama. You are the only one who always responds to my questions and everything. So I'm really happy to see you here again. Like I had discussed with you all yesterday, today I will be taking up those. First of all, we'll start with the movement, the individual writing, the general writing characteristic that I skipped yesterday, and then we'll move on to the report making and other details. So let me just turn on my camera first so that you all can see me. I guess you all are able to see me now.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen. Just give me a minute. So, my screen is also visible.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is something I have actually taken my own handwriting sample, so that will is it will be easy for us to understand the comparison when we will be discussing that part. But first of all, I would like to discuss this movement with you. And the only reason that I have turned on my video is that so that I can show you a bit about it. So, movement is basically, if you will see, the motion of the writing instrument with respect to the hand. As I had discussed yesterday with all of you, the concept of handwriting is basically your coordination between your brain and your hand. Here I'm using the word hand. I should use the word limb. So when you are your muscles are coordinating with your brain, the entire action is duplicated using a writing instrument on a paper. So from where the force is coming to move that writing instrument is basically the one where we define movement into. So generally, we define movement into five different categories: finger, wrist, forearm, whole arm, and then the combinations of the above three. When I come to the when you will arrange these movements, you can say that the finger movement is the least movement, and combinations of them in the increasing order will become the highest level of movement. Finger movement is basically a movement wherein I guess my hand is visible. Yeah, if somebody can tell
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
Yeah, see, finger movement is basically when you are holding your pen using all your five fingers, and then your fingers flexes and relaxes to move your writing instrument. So now I guess you are able to see that when I am writing, my hand will not be able to move because of the restriction of my body, and along with that, this hand movement is restricted in one particular direction. I won't be able to write in right left. My you can say that my what horizontal displacement is not possible, because to move my horizontal hand I either have to move my elbow or my wrist, but in this case I'm not moving either. So what I'm moving is my fingers only. I'm relaxing them, I'm flexing them. So this one directional movement is actually giving me the restriction. So we are categorizing finger movement as the least movement or the first degree of movement, wherein this type of movement you will you can read the points if you want to. In this, sorry, herein you will find that the writing will be vertical, because your direction of movement of your handwriting is in the one direction only, and that too in the vertical direction. You are holding your pen with all your five fingers, and the motion is coming from the fingers only. And apart from that, the writing quality will be very poor. You can consider this type of movement to be exhibited by people who are semi-literate, or you can say children's who are trying to learn how to write. Because if you remember, when children they are trying to learn to write, they hold their pen with all the five fingers, so that they think that they have to hold it like that only. So their writing, if you will see, it's large, it's big, and there are no connecting strokes present. There is no rhythm. There will be no, fixed size and fixed proportion of letters. It will be all random. There will be multiple strokes to make one single alphabet. Like if somebody has to make letter A, what the person will do, the person will write first one of the A's, one line, then the another line, then the third line. There will be multiple strokes that will be involved in this type of handwriting. Then comes your wrist movement. Again, I would like you to look at my hand. See, when the wrist movement comes into play, the motion comes from my wrist. Okay, if you all want to try, you can try this also. If my motion is coming from my wrist, so my vertical movement is now increased. Also, you can see that I can move further down. Okay, my vertical length has increased. Apart from that, I am able to slightly move from left to right direction also. So this is giving me two-dimensional freedom to write. Okay, and along with that, you can say that the handwriting will now become, it will be connected. Okay, there will be high presence of connecting strokes in this type of writing. And the students who are in their lower primary schools, say up till fifth standard, they will exhibit this type of handwriting. And because their handwriting is into the maturing phase, I mean, they have learned how to make their words, and now they're trying to write it in the connecting forms. So there will be high presence of connecting strokes in this writing. And the writing will not be very artistic. ओके, इट विल बी लाइक समबडी जिसको जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि चीटियों जैसी राइटिंग लिखा हुआ है. Okay, so it will be something like that, ki some very small, very connected, very clumsy type of a writing will be there. So that's why I've written the words scratchy and illegibles. Okay, there will be alignment, there will be slant present in this handwriting. I have taken the finger plus wrist movement here, the combination, one of them. Reason being, we have already discussed the two. So here what will happen that ki when you are writing, your primary motion will come from the wrist, and your secondary motion will come from the finger. Now what will be, you will not be holding your pen like this with your all five fingers. It will be involving your thumb and your two fingers, and maybe the ring finger supporting. And because of the secondary motion coming from the finger and primary motion coming from the wrist, this type of handwriting will be smoother as compared to the other two. This type of writing will be detached because the fingers are involved, so the connecting strokes will be lesser. So the detached writing will be there. Apart from that, the quality of writing will be higher than the other two types of movement. Then comes your forearm movement. Some places you will find that people will, authors will write it as the elbow movement. Forearm movement is basically when the motion is coming from your elbow. So when your elbow is moving, you can see that you are able to cover at least a semicircular type of a distance. So now what will happen? There will be more lateral displacement of your words because you are getting more space to write, you are getting more motion to write. So your words will be more laterally displaced. There will be presence of spacing. Okay, there will be artistic presence in this handwriting. The writing will be fast. Okay, and the motion will be coming from the elbow, and it will be something like this. You are writing, you are resting your you are keeping your elbow at the surface, the resting surface, and then you are writing it. So this type of movement is actually helpful and is found mostly in the students, or you can say the people who are there in their under their graduations, and they are having this type of writing. This is to be exhibited as the most artistic writing. It is most smooth. It is one of the you can say most beautiful type of writing will come from this type of a movement, the forearm movement. Then comes your full arm movement. Okay, the full arm movement is basically the writings which will be coming from your shoulder. This is your full arm. So the handwriting which will come from your shoulder. So when you are writing on big canvases, when you are writing on whiteboards, when you are writing on walls, so you don't write like this. Okay, you use your shoulder. Your motions come from your shoulder. So when you move your shoulder, you are able to cover more distance. So this type of writing will be slow because the motion is coming from a very farther point than the from the location of your hold pen hold. So but the writing will be slow, but it will be enlarged. Okay, and the writing will show big letters, and there will be absence of connecting strokes. Like if you all are students, so you can go back to the whiteboard teaching that your teachers has been doing. When they write on the whiteboards, they don't they don't touch the whiteboard, they don't take the support out of it. Okay, they stand a bit away from it and then they write, and the writing is bigger, it's not small writing. So it's big writing without the connecting strokes and slow. But this type of movement is actually lower than that of the elbow movement. Then comes the other two combinations that we have been talking about, the finger and full arm and the wrist and full arm. The finger and full arm movement is that when you write on the whiteboard, when your teachers ask you to write on a whiteboard, and since you are not experienced enough to write on a whiteboard, you will go back to those days when you were asked to write. So you will see that some of you or your classmates would have written very small letters. Okay, this type of writing comes from finger and full arm movement. Basically, you are holding your pen with again five fingers, but your motion is coming from your shoulder because you are using a big writing surface to write on. So the writing is small, illegible, clumsy, but still you will be able to read it. And in case of wrist plus forearm movement, again this type of writing will be fast, wavy, giving more displacement than the finger, lateral displacement than the finger. Presence of connecting strokes will be there. So I guess this movement part is clear to everyone. So if anybody has any questions from general or individual characteristics, you can ask me, and then we'll move forward to the comparison. Because if this part is not clear to you, there is no need to understand the comparison. You won't be able to understand. So if there are any questions, you can ask me. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask me the question if you want. Okay, I guess nobody is having any questions. So let us just move forward. Okay. So these are the two writing samples that we will be considering for the comparison. If you remember yesterday, I told you that my habit is of writing in groups, and this is what you can see here. Okay, I have clubbed IN together, then DI, then VI, and then DUAL. This is what I was talking about. You can see the spacing between my handwriting. Okay, so let us just move on to the concept of comparison of handwriting now. Okay. See, when you're talking about comparison of handwriting, basically you are supposed to perform a number of comparisons. That is, number one is to be called as intra-comparison. Then comes your inter-comparison. Okay. But before that, this has to be done. The preparation of your evidentiary sample has to be done. You have to perform the labeling and the marking of your particular document. Since this is the you can say the digital, so I have done a bit of work ahead. So you can see that this is the famous London letter that we all must have used sometime in your examination or your forensic education. So this is the London letter. This letter is basically comprising of all 36 alphabets A to Z of English language, along with that all 10 figures 0 to 9, almost all punctuation marks, and the all the alphabets are in both the language, both these cases, that is the capital case and the small case. So this is the particular London letter, and say for example this is your question document that you have received. So if it is a question document, I'm going to tell you that it has to be labeled and it has to be marked. So when you are marking and labeling a question document, it has to be done with pencil, and you have to either use the top right corner or bottom right corner of the document to label it. The labeling has to be as Q1, Q2, Q3, depending on the number of documents you are having. Red red border kind of a thing has to be done, and this is called as marking. This has to be done on the original document only, and this is the primary thing that you should do on all your samples, whether they are questioned, whether they are standard. When they are standard, this marking and labeling has to be done in blue pencil, and the labeling will be A1, A2, A3 for your admitted ones, or some of you will take it as the non-requested samples, and S1, S2, S3 as specimen or your requested samples. Same, requested and specimen are the synonyms to each other, and the question, this admitted and non-requested are synonyms to each other. Okay, so this is the first step that you should perform, and then you can see that this is a sample report that I have been using from past couple of I think I can say around 7-8 years now. So this is the standard format that I have used. First of all, wherein you have to put in the report number. If you are giving an official report, it has to carry this report number, so that when you are called by the court, you are able to have, you are having a you can have a reference number, so that you can get to your samples, your case files, your observations and everything. Then comes your report by, with the who has actually made the report, who has assisted the report. Okay, then comes this referee. This is not reference, it is the referee. It means that who has given you the case, who gave you, who is your client, what is the FIR number, everything has to be written here as referee. Then materials received. What sort of material you received, whether it was on rule sheet, whether it was on plain sheet, whether it was written in pencil, whether it was written with pen. If preferably, if you can identify the pen, whether it's a ball pen, it's a gel pen, it's an ink pen, it will be well and good. If you can pinpoint the color of ink also, that will be benefited for you more. Okay, because that would give an impression to the person who is going to be reading this, that you have thoroughly observed your sample before even you started making a report. Your observations are clear cut. So, and when you are writing this material receipt part, don't write big paragraphs. Write it in bullet points. Say, I have received a sample from, say, Manorama is here. So Manorama, the client sample was received from client, and it contained, it was in a transparent envelope, and it contained 10 pages, number 1.10 pages, English language, blue colored ink, and on ruled paper. So make it in bullet points, so that it is easy to read, easy to understand, and the person can get a lot of information from minimum usage of word. Query means that what question has been asked from you by your client, whether the client wants to verify the signatures, whether the client wants to know whether the document is genuine or not, whether the client wants to know that the handwriting or the authorship. Okay, so you have to be very clear with when you are writing the query, because your entire report, your opinion, your conclusion depends on this query. Say, if you are asked, if you are writing in query that the client asked to examine the document. What examine in document? Handwriting, signatures, figure, paper, ink, age, what? There are hundreds and thousands of questions that can be raised. So be specific while writing your query, because these are the, I mean, you will think that I am telling you about very small points, but these are the points which will make your report readable. It will make your report more, effective, and easily understood by the person or by the court of law. Okay, so your query has to be very specific. Then comes your examination part. Examination part may, you write what all instruments you used, if at all you have used any instruments. Say, you have used some magnifying glasses. So what magnifying glasses you have used? What were their magnification? Just don't bluntly write, okay, magnifying glasses were used. No, you have to be very specific about what magnification were they of. Were they 5x magnification? Were they of 10x magnification? Were they of 15x magnification? So that part has to be written here in the examination part. Okay, then comes your result of your examination. In simple language, you can understand that these are your observations. This result of your examination, see, this is somewhere some example that I have written. A written document was received in English language, rule sheet, written in red ink, and the sample was marked using red pencil and then labeled as Q1. Same for the query. Okay. So, what examination was performed? You can see that intra comparison was done, and with the 5x and 10x wala. Then comes your observations or the report. So you have to categorize it into general category characteristics, and then the individual characteristics, and then the comparison part will come. So it's better to first categorize them, and when you are categorizing, first categorize them. I'm just going to be using the keyboard now. Okay, categorize them for intra comparison and then inter comparison. Okay, a reason being, some of you will ask me that why I am talking about intra comparison and inter comparison. See, the point is that when you are talking about intra comparison, you are actually cross verifying your samples. Okay, whether you have received genuine samples or there is some forgery that has been done in the sample itself. Like one of the cases that I had examined was my standard sample contained false signatures. In the standard sample that was supplied to me contained almost 50 signatures, and those 50 signatures were actually traced from one another. Like there were only 10 genuine signatures in that 50 ka bundle, and rest 40 were traced from one of the other of the 10 original signatures. So if I would not have performed the intra comparison, then I would not have been aware of this fact. So when you receive your samples, whether they are standard or question, you perform comparison in them also itself, inside the standard bundle, inside the question bundle, so that when you are examining inside the standard bundle, first of all, it will be benefited for you for cross verifying, and then it will be helpful for you to understand the natural variations, so that you will be able to establish that what is the natural variation boundary inside your standard sample. If you will not observe your standard sample, if you will not conduct the intra comparison of your standard sample, you won't be able to understand the natural variation. For example, if you will take a look at my handwriting here, okay, okay, this is my handwriting sample. If you will look into it very easily, you will be able to find a variation in alphabet G and in alphabet F very clearly. See, you observe, you see this alphabet G in the word writing here, and then same alphabet in the finger over here. Here you can see in the writing, the small letter G is forming a complete loop, a complete circle on the top in the main body. And here you can see that there is absence of any loop in the, if I'll zoom it, it will be more clear to you. Observe this G and observe this G. You will see the variation in the letter formation. And then see these words off, observe off here and off here. They are just right next to each other, below each other. But see the formation of letter O, entirely different. Then come over here. Observe the F here. Here the F is starting with a hook start. Here there is no hook. So you can see, you clearly see here is a hook start, but there is no hook in this one. Okay, so this will only, sorry, this you will understand only and only when you will perform the intra comparison of your own handwriting sample, of the standard, because that will give you an idea of what kind of natural variation the individual is having in his or her handwriting. So that is why this concept of intra comparison is has to be emphasized and has to be done. It is nothing that it is not something that you can just skip over. Then comes your concept of intercomparison. Intercomparison is basically when you are comparing the known with unknown. That's when you're comparing the question and the standard specimens, standard samples together. When you are doing that, this is intercomparison, and herein you are actually uh, when see, I'm going to give you my example that when I perform this type of this type of analysis, I go by the opinion that this is both the samples are matching, everything is same, and then I start off with their comparison. When I do that, if I am unable to find the similarities, and if I am unable to check all the checkpoints of the writing samples being of the same author, then I move on and I say that okay, they are from different authors. But if you will start with an opinion that this is from the different authors, you will not be able to see the points of natural variation. So because your mind, you have set it on fundamental differences, so you have to select on what is good, what is the right and what is the wrong in your mindset. So never ever, first of all, form a negative opinion prior to observation. And when you are writing about these samples, whether it is intercomparison or intracomparison, though you will find that the way I say it is very lengthy, but still it's easily to be understood. You have to understand that don't use complicated scientific words. Don't use hi-fi English vocabulary. Don't use simple language, to the point, and be precise. For example, here you can see I've written about the general characteristics. So, for example, the question document sample labeled as Q1. Be specific which sample you are talking about, whether it is questioned, whether it is standard, and even if it is standard, whether it is specimen, whether it is admitted, and then what labeling you have done to them, whether they are A, S, or Q, and then what is the number assigned to them. Okay, so that if somebody else is reading your report and they have the stack of samples sitting aside, they should be able to find that one particular sample in which you are of which you are talking about, and that too without spending a lot of time in finding the sample. Okay, say for example, you just write the sample exhibits combination movement. Okay, which sample? Whether question, whether standard, and in question, then which question. So your report should not raise questions, it should give answers. So be specific, mention which sample you are talking about, how you have labeled it, and then use simple language. See, I haven't used a single complicated word. Exhibits combination movement, which is characterized by. So justify your answer, justify your observation in your report only, so that the report is self speaking for itself. Nobody has to ask you, acha, why you have written this, what observation did you make. No, you want to know why I made this observation, please read the next line. It is written there, it is self explanatory. Make sure that your reports are such that. Okay, and when you are writing about individual characteristics, for example, the G that we have noticed. Okay, so when you're writing about individual characteristics, you write it specifically that let me just copy this from here because it's going to be the same line.
Excuse me, ma'am. May I ask?
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm like in the intra comparison,
Hmm.
sometimes like we use different types of pens with different weights, so our handwriting changes in a
Yeah.
particular. Sometimes
Huh.
we use different types of pens, and
Hmm.
some after writing for maybe half an hour, we feel like our hand is paining. Then also our writing gets changed.
Hmm.
Sometimes we get confused. So is there a
Hmm.
way to like differentiate that the person has written all the 2 3 samples that we have like gathered are of the same person?
Okay. May I know your name because the screen wasn't there? Who was it?
Yeah.
Sorry? Manorama. Okay. See, Manorama, you have raised a very nice question over here. Ki, if our say it was a non-requested sample or it was an admitted sample, and you took it, there are 10 pages, and four are written with one pen, two are written with one pen, and then four are written with some other pen. So how to justify it? See, I had done this study in one of my researches. I have done this study. I have used seven different pen and on the same writing surface, and then one pen with seven different writing surfaces. This is what I did, and what I had observed was when even if I am using seven different pens but on the same writing surface, but the basic letter formation of mine is not changing. Let me explain you with an example. Like over here, I've just told you guys to observe my off and off. Okay, just zooming in a more further. Okay, now if you will observe, okay, if you will observe very carefully here. The letter formation, it begins with top of O, and then it forms a curve of and the main body of F, connecting at the top and then finishing in the lower middle of our body. Same happens here. It is starting with the right hand side start. Here also it starts with the right hand side start. But here it is not, though it is not forming a complete circle, it moves, it goes on the top, the connecting stroke is again at the top, it comes down, and then it forms a loop in the lower half of the middle body. So my basic letter formation is not changing. Though the appearance of the word is different, but my basic letter formation hasn't changed. Now you see this thing. This is from a different pen. Okay, here let us find an off. Okay, tell me if you will observe an off here. See here, this is a different pen, but observe. The basic letter formation is not changing. The movement of stroke is not changing. So this is what I had observed in my during my research also. I took around 300 samples, and in all 300 samples I was able to conclude very easily that the basic letter formation doesn't change with the pen or with the writing instrument. What happens is that your appearance changes, but the number of strokes you are using to make a particular alphabet or a particular word, that remains same. So in that case, if you are observing in the intra comparison that there are different pens that a person has been using, so try and finding the similar words in the intra comparison. Okay, and then look for their letter formation. If their basic letter formation is changing, that means that there is something, दाल में कुछ काला है, or there is some sign of a doubt. Okay, but this basic letter formation should not change with respect to pen or writing instrument, and that is how we observe the tremor also. That is how we distinguish whether the tremor, how the tremor is there, whether it is age wise, whether it is because of some medical illness or other any other illnesses. Like recently I had observed the handwriting samples of individuals who have developed Parkinson disorder, PD. All of you must be familiar with this. It is a muscular disorder wherein the individual, it's a neuromuscular disorder wherein the individual loses the control of his or her own muscles. Okay, their hand becomes shaky. Okay, that this type of disorder was not so well, you will not find many patients in our country, but now the number is increasing. So it has become a very concerned question that how to establish, say somebody is aging in his or her 60s, and this Parkinson disorder, they start when the person is in late 40s. Okay, so say somebody has signed something when they were in their 40s, and then in their 60s this thing has been it comes under question. So now the person is in 60s and now you are taking his sample. So obviously the person has developed Parkinson, the signatures will be full of tremor. So how you will able to observe them, how you will be able to compare them? So again we observe that the same thing, that there is this concept of micrographia that comes into being when we are talking about Parkinson disorder. So leaving aside micrographia, the basic letter formation, the basic movement of the pen never changes. Okay, the individual exhibits a particular style of moving the pen. That movement of pen to make a particular alphabet, that doesn't changes with any of the other, whether it is your writing surface, whether it is your any muscular disorder, whether it is your writing instrument, that basic movement never changes. So as an expert, you should be able to identify that basic movement. And if you are going to be able to identify that basic movement, nobody will be ever able to reject your reports. And you should be able to defend them. Yes, that is the one of the most important question. If you are acting as a private expert, you should be able to defend your reports. But again, if your observations are that sharp, that will help you out in not only defending but also in writing your reports. And this will make you a better expert. And frankly, Manorma, it's a very good question that you have asked. Thank you so much. Any other questions? I hope I am able to satisfy your question.
Yes, ma'am. I just was confused, like due to time we are doing some work for an hour or so, so sometimes our writings become a little bit like
Okay.
shaky.
Uh,
So
See,
sometimes it can be confusing.
yes. So if you are having any of your practical files with you right now, I don't know, or whenever you next go and give your exam offline mode may, so just observe your own handwriting before submission, at the start when you started giving the exam, and at the end of the point, at the end of the exam. Okay. Though your end of the exam wali writing will be like Ghasita wali writing, but still your letter formation will be same as it was in the beginning. It's a long 3 hour 2 hour stretch, so definitely your muscles get tired, but you will be able to observe this part. Okay, and this will come with experience, and that is why yesterday I emphasized on the fact that you all should start observing the handwritings. Every now and then you get a chance, you observe that handwriting so that it will be easy for you to learn. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So let us move forward with the intra comparison. So when I am talking about intra comparison, what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be just giving you the basic language in which you should write. Okay. Say for example, the F that we had just seen. So the question sample labeled as Q1. Okay. This is the standard line. Okay. So but when you are giving intra comparison, there comes a word which become, there is a phrase that should come in front of it. For example, since I am observing, so the small letter F, because we are observing the small letter F. Okay. In the words we have observed off, so let us just keep it word. In the word off. Okay. In the question sample marked, labeled as Q1. So if a person wants to know which of I am talking about, the person has to, which F I am talking about, the person simply has to go to question document, SAC, pick up the Q1, look for the word off. Okay, and then the person will be able to see what F I am talking about here. Okay, let's say is executed. I'm sorry. Is is executed in single stroke. It is done in single stroke or single pen operation. There is no multiple, there is no pen lift has been observed. Okay. Single pen operation with the with with start at the top, followed by a long straight vertical staff and a loop in the lower half of the body. Okay, no complicated words, nothing doing, but it gives you it gives you a image that this alphabet starts from the top, it goes in the bottom, and then it forms a loop in the lower half of the body. So it gives an image to the reader that how the alphabet looks like. Okay, now if I am comparing it with another sample, say for example in this one, since I have found it same, I can write that same execution is observed in the small letter f of the word of in the specimen sample marked as S1. So this will give me a complete execution of first similarity of characteristic that I have observed. Now say for example it is different. Okay, so in question sample it has been observed as this, but in standard sample you can continue with the comparative statements, use of comparative phrases, use of comparative words, but it is found to be different in execution in specimen sample, which is like the observation that you have made. So yesterday the uh, points, the hook start, the staff, the buckle formation, these type of words that I have shared with you, those words and phrases you can use as an idea to understand, to make these alphabets available. Now the question arises that there are almost 36 alphabets to what to choose, which one to choose. So you should go for those alphabets, you should go for those words, you should go for those punctuation marks, you should go for those embellishments which you find are unique, and are unique to unique, meaning that key when you're talking about individual characteristics, say for example if you will see, then my letter F, and one of my unique characteristics, if anybody can tell me what is the unique characteristic that you can observe here in this writing. Okay, let me just tell you. Then let's, because of the time constraint. Okay, you observe my T crossbars. Wherever my T crossbars are there, and observe them with the continuation of the next alphabet. My T crossbars act as the starting stroke of the alphabet following it. Whether it is I, whether it is H, whether it is R, whether it is any other alphabet that you will see on this page right now. They are acting as the connecting strokes. So this is my unique characteristic. Another of my unique characteristic, if you will observe, I am making those grouping of the words. My words are grouped together. My alphabets are grouped together in long words. In short words, they are detached, but in long words, they are grouped together. So this is my individual characteristic. It is a unique characteristic into a unique characteristic. Okay, everywhere, whereas wherever my T crossbar is there, it is, and if it is followed by a alphabet, it is acting as the start of that alphabet. So this is something that you should point out when you are writing about my handwriting characteristic. So when you are writing out, when you are choosing individual writing characteristics, make sure that those are unique out of unique, so that such characteristics can be easily pinpointed whenever the person is reading them, and that is how you can make your report effective. Okay, so coming to the next part of the report, result. After result there should be one more point, I'm so sorry. After result there comes your opinion, what your opinion is, what is your opining about the report, that about the query that you have taken up. Okay, you observe, you were asked certain questions, you made certain observations, so what is your final conclusion? Again, that conclusion, like I said in the query, has to be to the point, precise and clear cut. No extra words should be used, No need of using elaborated paragraphs. No need of saying again that I had observed this and that is why I am saying this. No. Let it be cut to the chase, to the point. Let it just say that. Keep the question and the handwriting the sample, the question handwriting sample labeled as q1, q2, q3, the standard writing sample labeled as s1, s2, s3 are of same authorship, are of different authorship, or they are of same authorship but shows the presence of disguise. So it has to be in one line and cut to the chase. No need to write extra anything. You have already explained your observations in the top. Okay, no need to explain your observations back again in your opinion. And make sure your opinion is, when you are typing it, it is bigger in font, it is bold, and it is it's catchy so that the person can read it very easily. And then comes your enclosure part. Your enclosure part is something that is helpful for you to justify a report. Say for example, I submitted a report based on age of documents. Okay, so I went on, I added into the report the articles, the research articles that supported my observations about yellowing of pages, about the spreading of ink, and then there was one report that I gave on photocopied signature, and in my opinion, I wrote that my opinion is subject to verification of original document. So why I have written this line? Because as an handwriting expert, until and unless I see original documents, I cannot opine about 100% of the of a particular document, because in photocopy hundreds and thousands of changes can be made. So I enclosed along with that report the pages from the famous books of Hilton, from Osborne, from Mehta and Mehta, the research article from Harrison, so that therein I am able to support that why I have written something. Say you have made certain observation which is not normally found, and you have done some research in that, and you have that research article with you. You enclose it with your report. It will act as a supporting evidence to your report. Along with that, you should always keep in the photographs. On the photographs, mark what characteristics you are using an permanent marker as an arrow, so that or better, make a juxtaposition chart. Okay, you make that juxtaposition chart. One side you keep the photograph, other side you keep the presentable. Okay, so this is what is all about report writing, how to make it more effective, how to perform comparison, and other details about writing characteristics and everything. If anybody wants to ask me anything, they can please go ahead. And definitely I will be sharing this material with the organizers, okay, in a couple before and at before the end of the workshop, you will be able to receive them from your organizers. Okay, if any questions are there, please ask me.
Ma'am, how gonna we match the handwriting if it is written on a wall?
Okay, see, if an handwriting is written on a wall, then the question arises is that how that handwriting has been first given to you, whether they are given in the form of a photograph, or the you went to the scene of crime and then you were able to observe those photographs. So what you can do is your first concern should be that you should be able to reach at the scene of crime, so that you are able to see that handwriting on the wall by your own eyes. Okay, and you have to be sharp enough, you have to be fast enough, so that you can make the observations right there, the small minute observations of tremors, the small minute observations of how the wall in physical appearance is, whether it is smooth, whether it is rough, Okay, because that will affect your handwriting, because when you will take the photograph, if the wall is not smooth, so the strokes will appear as if they are having tremors in them, but they might not be having tremor. And then again, I'm going to go back to the work that I had done. You have to be able to identify the basic letter formation. You have to be able to identify the basic letter formation, the basic, you can say, the alphabet formation, the number of strokes involved in making a particular alphabet, and along with that, you should be able to identify whether that writing on the wall is coerced, that is, it is being forcefully made to write, or whether that handwriting, say for example, it's a suicide note, or if it is a threat letter. So you should be able to identify there. Therein what comes into existence is that nobody will write something, copy something big paragraph from some book and then write on the wall. Nobody will do that. Okay, what they will be using, they will be using their own language. So the linguistic part of handwriting analysis will come into being there, and you will be able to pinpoint the key words, key alphabets, the usage of particular words, the pet phrases that will help you in identifying the authorship of the individual. Any other question?